Hello, everyone. How are you going tonight, Kate?
I'm good. That was incredible, that little start. I loved that. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yay! It's a really nice surprise when people get to see it for the first
time. That was awesome. I was like really like, oh my God. Beautiful.
Now you understand why I'm like, the photos are important.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, look lovely.
Yeah, that's so cool. So anyway, with Tasty Tuesdays, I'm Lorene Hughes, your host for tonight, and I'm from craftingpossibilities.com, and I do all sorts of energetic work, and I do all sorts of lovely healing and inspiring people to grow, shift, change, and expand, and be bold, be brave, and be you, or be them, as the case may be. And as part of my goal of inspiring people to be all of them, it's also about creating community and conscious community. So that's where this show comes from. And I love being able to chat with heart-centered beings such as Kate here, being able to share some of their journey with the spirituality and their consciousness journey, and, you know, the stuff that they've come from, the journey that they've gone from to where they are now, and the creating of their heart-centered businesses and journeys. So that's where we're at.
Wow. That's amazing.
So tonight we're going to be talking with Kate, who is from Kate's Orgonite Pyramids, and Kate has a really fascinating journey. We got to have a quick chat with the Queen of Wands fair about a month or so ago. Was that about right?
It was a while ago now.
Yeah. And I just absolutely I love the energy of Kate and what she had to offer, and I just really wished to know more. And I was like, you know, the best way for me to know more, how about you come on my podcast? We can talk about your pyramids, we can talk about your story, and share some inspiration for those of us out there that are just at that beginning stages of awakening, that are feeling very lost and alone, and really confused about what the fuck is going on. Why am I now getting all these weird and wonderful feelings? Why do I feel like I don't belong anymore to my old clan or group or whatever? And what the hell do I do now?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Kate, would you like to tell us a little bit more about you?
Well, your first sort of question that you threw out was, how did you begin your spiritual journey? And so I just sort of wrote some notes that, looking back, there were indicators that, I don't know if I really began a spiritual journey. I think the spiritual journey began with me, rather than, I didn't choose it. It chose me. And it was pretty evident, like really early on, at like 14 years old, even with just really basic things. Like I was lighting, you know, incense in my room and doing things that like other people wouldn't be, putting things in pots and doing all these sort of strange things that kind of my sister didn't do. So she was like similar age. And, you know, this just wasn't the sorts of things that she was doing. So they were kind of really early on. But around 1920 is when I was diagnosed with bowel disease. It took about a year to get diagnosed. So I was extremely ill for about a year before we actually got an official diagnosis. And that's Crohn's disease. And so that was when, during that time, I had like a really like profound, jaw-dropping realization about myself, that I was a witch. And that's when I was confronted with having a colostomy bag at the age of 20. And I think I was so young that I lacked any tools to be able to cope with any of that. So on one hand, I was reaching out for God, actually, like really like reaching out for God. But on the other hand, as a youth, I was reaching for drugs to cope. And so there were the two things kind of going on at the same time. So that was really, really difficult. And that whole process went on for about 6 years in and out of hospital until I finally went into remission. And I think by that time, I had nearly died during that time. So I really like reached out to the universe, and that's when the connection kind of got really deep. And I think it's actually really common for people with serious illness to find that connection. So that's what it was for me. One of the first indicators was serious illness. I think it can happen like with people that are diagnosed, with cancer, and that they know they're going to die. It's a natural response to reach out to, to something, more, because you're so lost that you're trying to hold on to something. So that's what really happened there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I sort of reached a bit of a rock bottom as well. I've reached a couple of rock bottoms. I think that term rock bottom, it can be, I think it's a little bit thrown around these days. Like people, I've hit rock bottom, but I've learned to expand my consciousness that rock bottom for some people is really different than rock bottom for other people. So there's a lot of dissolving of ego, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so rock bottom is different for everybody, but I think it's the process of the dissolving of the ego.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and so I've had to hit rock bottom in different forms multiple times. It's like my ego just comes back, and then I'm slammed down back to rock bottom, and until I don't need to anymore. I don't think. I hope, God. Because I do have a strong belief that rock bottom is a solid foundation to grow from. So rock bottom is the foundation point. But that's kind of terminology that they use in recovery circles, that you reach rock bottom, and that is your foundation from where you grow.
Yeah.
And so your second question, you just tell me if I'm rambling.
No, you're doing great. One thing I would like to just say, though, in regards to that rock bottom thing, is at the end of my first marriage, when I hit rock bottom, like
that's a rock,
my life, I used to say at the time, it was like my whole life imploded, and I lost everything. I lost my income. I lost my ability to concentrate. I lost my ability, like I lost my husband. I lost my house. I lost my car. Like I didn't actually lose my car. I gained a whole lot of debt. I gained a shitload of debt. I lost pretty much all my friends' circle. I lost everything. And everything went poof, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't even concentrate on a little toddler's book. I couldn't read it. I couldn't get through it. Like those just big words, it was poof. But once I moved through that initial stages, it was like my world didn't implode. It exploded into something really amazing, into something way better than what it was before. But it was like I had to go boof down here. I had to have that cutting moment. I had to have that implosion moment to have the explosion moment. It's like
Yeah.
it became a bounce rather than I'm going down here and I'm staying here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, rock bottom is a choice. Is a choice. You either choose to stay there or you choose to evolve from there. So some people don't survive rock bottom. So a lot of people don't, particularly in like addiction areas. Rock bottom is a place where people die. So my first rock bottom was bowel disease diagnosis as a teenager. And that was a rock bottom because that is just disgusting. Like, it was disgusting. I was only 18 years old and facing losing my bowel. So that was a rock bottom for me. And I pulled myself into a remission from there. And I had a really deep sort of God-centered, I'd say, when I say God-centered, I don't mean God in a religious institutional way. I mean universal kind of more spiritual way. And so then at 25 I had my daughter Claudia, and at 30 got married, got myself sober and didn't touch anything from the age of about 22, 23. And then I got really lonely. So in my sobriety, I was the only person in my late 20s, getting on to 30, who didn't drink. And so we would sort of have people over and everybody would be outside and I would be inside with the children. So I just felt really isolated and alone. So I picked up alcohol at the age of about 30, and I was just drinking socially at that point. And then got married at 30. We got married, and that was beautiful. And then by the age of 34, that marriage completely, got completely annihilated. So he cheated on me with somebody else. He got extremely drunk, took some drugs, and was with somebody else, and it just absolutely destroyed me. I didn't see it coming. And like you said, I lost my marriage, and at that time I lost my house. I had my car, same sort of thing. I was like, had nowhere to live, so I was sort of living in my car. And that went on for about a year. And during that time, so I was 34 years old, I also, because I was homeless, I couldn't take my daughter with me, so I had to leave her where she was, and that destroyed me completely. And that's when my drinking just escalated. So the drinking aspect got so bad that by the age of 37, I needed to go to rehab. And so that was another rock bottom. So they just kept hitting and hitting hard. And that was, going into the rehab facility. I stayed there for 3 or 4 months, and was another rock bottom. So sort of like there wasn't just one. Sometimes there's quite a few. So there's multiple. Yeah. So that was a pretty hefty rock bottom. And so from there, sort of got sober, dropped the booze. So so that's actually, we can sort of go there later, but that's a huge aspect of what I now do in the future, is like my future calling, is to do with that. But we can go there a little bit later, I think, because it might not be to everybody's taste. But your
It
second
doesn't
question
matter.
was what?
This
That's
is part of the
okay.
journey, you know.
Yeah, I will go there, but I'm just going to kind of like ease into it because it might throw people around a little bit and they might not like it. So your second, like you just sort of gave the dot points, was what does consciousness mean to me? And I really liked that question. So I answered it in a 2 parts. So I think, and I do think this is really important, is that consciousness is in one aspect an intensive mindful awareness of what you are doing, where you are doing it, who you are doing it with, what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. And that is conscious awareness of what is happening on a holistic scale around you. And also, I think you've got consciousness and you've got consequences. And I think they really come close together. So in that sense, I mean, if you are conscious in the present moment, you're conscious of the future moments, obviously, like not some people far-reaching, but you're conscious of future moments, and you're also conscious of the past moments. So you're conscious of what you leave behind. So consciousness is, and for me in particular, I'm very heavily conscious of what I leave behind, whether it's cleaning up after yourself, like what you leave behind, like in a literal sense, but also energetically what you leave behind. So I believe that you should leave any space that you inhabit for any particular time should be left as it was, if not better than it was.
Yeah.
And so that is sort of a level of consciousness, like whether it's from leaving, not dropping your litter at the bus stop to, being really, that's one level. So don't do that, but to be really aware of what you're energetically leaving behind with your interactions with people and everything. And that can be a bit of a tall order. It can be a bit heavy. Not everyone's ready for consciousness equaling responsibility.
Yes.
Fascinating
to see every person's oh goodness gracious. Just be aware that when you're donking your headphones it comes through.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
That's all right. These things happen. It's important to know. So yeah, just as Matt said, just be you. One of our beautiful audience people out there is just saying, just be you.
Oh, that's awesome.
And whatever that means, for you. And what I love about that question of what does consciousness mean to you is that, like, we have had many guests on this show now, and every single one of you have said something different.
Yeah,
and
right. I would have thought so.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a different perception of it.
They do, and that's why it's so great to hear different people's answers. And I love that you've brought in that consequences aspect to it as well, and to really comprehend what it means to live in a conscious way. Because
I think that's my first part. There is that ripple effect. So that's why I've kind of broken it down into 2 parts. So I would say that that's more of an earthly conscious awareness. But I do think it's also your connection and your relationship with, obviously, the omnipresent, whatever you want to call that, the divine universe, God, Allah, whatever you call it, is also consciousness, is like that relationship that you have, your own personal relationship with the omnipresent is your consciousness as well.
Absolutely, 100%. And I just love these juicy parts of consciousness and the conversation around this as well. Like, to me, that is just so fucking amazing. So I'm just going to jump around a little bit. So I'd like to know, with your journey with the alcoholism and all of that sort of stuff, like, how did that lead you into creating Orgonite Pyramids?
So I actually first saw them when I was doing house cleaning in my early 20s, and there was a man that had them in his house, and they were everywhere, and I didn't really know what they were, but I was drawn to them. Something crazy. And so, you know, skip forward almost 25 years later, I ordered a little tiny one online, and when it arrived, I've only had a few things in my life that have like soul called me to do, like, this is something you have to do. And one of them was the birth of my daughter, and that was like, this is something that you have to do. And tribal belly dance was another one. This is something that you have to do. And then the Orgonites as well. When it arrived, and I was like, I have to do this. I'm actually in my Orgonite studio at the moment, and they're just all around me at the moment. And it turned into, you know, not only can I do them, but like, as in make them, you know, but I can actually make them work. And I think that conversation of consciousness and the Orgonites go together. So it's what's put in them, and then the energy that they create and the ripple effect that goes out. So there is a science behind Orgonites. So I don't know if you want me to give you the science spiel.
Please.
I can give you the science spiel. So Orgonites traditionally, they cleanse negative energy and counteract the effects of electromagnetic waves on your body. They help improve your life physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So they are based on two principles, and that is a mix of resin as an organic material, because it's a petrochemical, and metal shavings, which is inorganic. And then generally crystals are added. So when it's all put together, it gives off a charge. The crystals are put under pressure. Everything is put under pressure. When the resin cures, it really pressurizes. And it creates what's been done, like, it's what's called a scrubbing effect. So the charge from the crystals cleanse the stagnant negative energy. They bring everything back to a healthy, vibrant state. So you can place them in different areas of your home, and they have, you know, like, I've got a list of clearing ambient energy, improving sleep, purifying the air, reducing stress and anxiety. They're great for meditation, spiritual and psychological growth, for moods, reducing radiation, and decreasing sensitivity to EMFs. So
nice.
Yeah, they are incredibly powerful. It's not to be kind of laughed at. So I haven't actually written here, but I haven't got the name of the man who actually
the one that's on the screen at the moment. I absolutely love that one.
Yeah, so that one is a next level Orgonite. So my father is dying. He's in stage 4 kidney failure, and he also has a brain tumor. And so he had a mobile phone sort of attached to his head from the second that mobile phones came out. So where it's about that consciousness thing is one element of Orgonites, is recognizing that we are just bombarded by devices. And the Orgonites counteract what is being given off. So you can actually buy little ones that you stick on your phone. You can get little ones that you can like stick on your computer. There's like huge range, but I do the pyramids, and I sort of really customize as well. So that one on the screen was a particular customization for my parents. So that one is extremely powerful, with what's in it, and it does look really cool. So that's awesome as well. So so we've got different crystals capping there. That's a tourmaline capped. So that particular collection was specifically designed to go in your bedroom. So a lot of people, or I do, go to bed with your phone and scroll. So it's good to have them next to your bed, but that one's also for dream assistance. So if you're doing any like subconscious work and working with dreams, so that's what the key was, the symbol to unlock the subconscious, and it's got what it's got in it. It's awesome. It's all about that. So that was the Dreamscape collection, and that one on the screen is actually the only one left. So that one's still gone. I know, and it's my favorite one. Like I made a whole collection, and that one remained. It's my favorite one. Maybe I don't want to let it go. I don't know. Anyway,
I love it.
Yeah, so that's Orgonites, but then there is a different element to my Orgonites because I am a witch, and so some of my Orgonites are a little bit different. They incorporate the traditional scientific element of Orgonites, and then I add the magical element to them as well, which makes them, I suppose, my own unique brand. So I do have like one Orgonite currently that's absolutely stunning, and at the base of it, it's got a full spine, like an actual spine of a creature, sort of like right in the base. So when you turn it upside down, you can see the spine. So the idea of that is really symbolic. It's for standing, really standing up straight, standing up for yourself. That sort of
Having
stuff.
Your own back.
Yeah, all of those things that you associate with a spine. So that's not necessarily an Orgonite element. That's a magical element. So you've got your Orgonite crossed with your magical. So some people are drawn to the traditional style, and then because they're quite confronted by some of my other designs, and some people love the other stuff that's a little bit more out there. So yeah, that's my Orgonite journey, which is still going. Always creating collections. Actually, I'm really excited about the next couple I'm doing. I'm doing one called, so I have usually I have a collection of about 5 with the same theme going on. And I'm doing one called Glitter Ball. And so there'll be a collection of 5 Orgonites, obviously reflecting that type of title. But I've put a call out for people to show me their most glitter moment when they felt the most beautiful. And I've had about 6 people send me images of themselves when they felt the most sparkly or beautiful in their lives. And one of them was a guy, and he had you'll see it all later when I launched the collections. I think you've showed with the video, with the photos and the videos. So I've decided to do a bit of a collaborative launch with people, showing just ordinary people in their finest moments. So I'm just collating these images at the moment, which is really exciting. I'm loving this one. It's heaps of fun.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know where it goes. I just go with the flow. So I don't know where this one is going. It's just they get legs of their own, don't they? Anyway. Yes, they do.
Oh dear. So your journey with the Orgonites, like, is that tiny little, so you bought one online.
Yes.
You're kind of
and then I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this, which is kind of what happened. I think one of your questions was your tasty experience in life.
Yes, that's the next
and
question.
I loved that question, but I sat with my mom and I'm like, oh my God, like the tastiest one's like, what am I going to say? Like the birth of my 3 children. Cause like, yeah, that was awesome. But it's not like realistically, I'm like, yeah, it's like, you have to say that. So, okay, cool. Like the birth of my 3 children. Yeah, that was awesome. It was like magical moment for sure. But then I was like, actually, my mum pointed out, she goes, what about the moment when you first saw tribal belly dance? And I was like, you know what? You're right. That was the tastiest moment of my life.
Yes.
Like,
tell us more about that.
I was about 23 years old and I picked up a flyer on the floor, on the ground, walking through Stirling for a dinner and show at the Stonyfell Winery. Had no idea what it was. I just knew that they were serving Lebanese food and that was like my favorite food. So we went. I went with my now ex-husband when we were sort of dating.
Yeah.
And we were seated at the table, this big round table with all the tribal belly dancers. And then they got up on stage and they did their thing. And I was just captivated. And when we left and we were walking back to the car, my partner said to me, he goes, that's what you're going to do, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then from like 23 years old, I just trained. I traveled all around the country, started my own school, ran that for just under 10 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I actually did really, really well. So that was nominated for Telstra's Arts Business of the Year award 2 years in a row. So that was like, that was a juicy moment for me. So I was actually, it's really weird to have such highs and then, God, I've had such lows as well. So I was nominated 2 years in a row and I was runner-up the first year, which I was still like blown away by. So even being nominated was just crazy for a South Australian arts business. And so that was, 2 years nominated. First year I made the finals and came runner-up, which was still pretty cool. Second year I made nominations, but I didn't make the finals. And in the third year, I didn't make nominations at all, but I was invited to perform at the gala. And that was really intensive, nerve-wracking. There's hundreds of people, really ritzy event. And I was nervous, but I did pull it off. So there were some really high moments in my dance career. But my dance studio was set up at home. I had a home studio. So when my marriage ended, I did lose my business as well. So
wow.
Yeah. So I lost the whole school. But I must say that my drinking played a big part in why I lost the school as well. So I knew that my drinking had started to become problematic. They use the term problematic. And it was time to shut the school down anyway because I was losing control. So then I did lose everything completely. I lost So I've learned that there's about 5 things that can happen to a human being that can really flatline you. And one is losing your home. One is losing a marriage, a divorce, losing a loved one, a serious health crisis, and I can't remember what the 5th one is. And so I had a combination of at least 3 of those going on. I lost my home, my marriage, I lost my business. I also had to leave my child behind, and so that's where, so there was this big high, and then there was this big crash.
Yeah.
Where everything went. And so then there's this big period of rebuilding to where I am today, which has been a lot of hard work. So I'm just starting my 6th year sober. And so while I do make orgonites, I also spent the last year, all of this year, 2022, writing blog articles on women and sobriety, because it's a very different journey for a woman than it is for a man, and especially if you're a mother as well. There's a lot of stigma, and it can get pretty nasty, actually. So I wrote about 50 articles during the course of this year. I removed 12 because they were a little bit too controversial. But I was left with 38 articles that I did see a publisher about, because there was some interest in publishing what I wrote, but I decided not to go ahead with that publishing, because it was actually involved too much money, and it wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I sort of self-published a whole a series of them, collated into a collection which I call Sacred Sober. So it looks like I've got versions of it that look like this, and I actually just offered these out. So these are just offered out to anyone, male or female, and there's like 38, I'll try and show you, 38 different articles in here on Sacred Sober, but it's from a spiritual point of view.
Yeah, wow.
It's all from a spiritual point of view. So using different tools.
Yeah.
Because there is like, people think that if you reach a point with drugs and alcohol that is out of control, that your only options are AA. And these days, that is, there's just so much out there that I've discovered. And the things that I've discovered, I really want to share with people, because I'm a stay-at-home mum with 2 toddlers and trying to be sober. So I've joined, bunches of communities online of women who are in the same boat, and so there are so many different avenues, and I've put them all into this Sacred Sober, so that people that don't fit the mold, you're like, I just can't go, don't want to go to AA, or it's just not for me. There's just so many other options out there. And one of the main things that I also wanted to put out there is that the concept of alcoholism, and somebody being an alcoholic, has actually been is a debunked theory now. It is now known as alcohol use disorder, and it is a spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
So you might have somebody who, and this is what I've learned in the last maybe 6 months to 12 months, and it's been a difficult journey to learn, is that you can be somebody that has 1 drink a month. So I actually communicated with this woman, and she said she drank once a month But when she did, she caused havoc. She would like text all of her friends and say all this horrible stuff and pick fights and just ruin her relationships with people. And she would do this every month, and it was just destroying her relationships with people. And so she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, you're an alcoholic. And so she sort of was like saying, I'm an alcoholic. And so it can be really confronting to other people who, like my partner, for example, who has cirrhosis, who have, drunk in a really different way, who have drunk, like a lot all day, every day, to the point where, he almost died in hospital. And then you've got the spectrum of someone saying, well, I just drink and cause havoc on my phone once a month. But I've had to learn that that they're actually equal. So whether you're having one drink a week, or whether you're having 1,000 drinks a day, if it is having a negative impact on your life, it is a problem.
Yeah.
And so it's redefining rock bottom. So you do not have to reach rock bottom in order to make changes. And I wish I knew this way back when, so I didn't have to hit those low lows. Is like you can actually go, I think this is negatively impacting my life. And it can be as simple as like something like, I decide that I want to get up on a Saturday morning and make pancakes for my kids. And I'm not talking about me personally, but I'm just saying in general. But on Friday night, you had a few too many. And so Saturday morning rocks around and you feel too shit to actually get up and make your kids pancakes. And it's like, you know what, that's not cool. And I don't, you can say, I don't think this isn't who I want to be. Like, this isn't what I wanted to do. You don't actually have to hit this rock bottom where your whole life is annihilated before you make changes. So I've got a sort of running joke with my neighbour, and he says, we laugh about, minimalism as being a bit of a fad kind of thing. We're like, if you want minimalism, it's pretty simple. Just drink. You'll fucking lose everything. You'll lose your house. You'll lose your car. You'll lose your kids. You'll lose your family. Don't worry about it. Just keep on drinking. You'll get there. You'll be minimalist in no time. So it's a bit of a sick joke, but it's kind of true. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We've got a couple of comments in the chat.
Yes, there might be, because it's kind of heavy. Some people don't like.
It's okay.
No,
it's all good. Beautiful. Amanda said she said she loves your raw honesty and congratulations on your 6 years sobriety. So big props, and just a happy little hi to Judy, and obviously to Matt, who's watching as well. So thank you. Something that I learned just recently was from a very good friend of mine who has alcoholism disorder of the alcohol.
AUD. We call it AUD. It's called alcohol use disorder. Yeah.
Alcohol use disorder. There we go. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. It's getting this new dialogue happening. There is no alcoholism. It is not a disease.
Yeah. So he has been on a really intense journey recently. Along with that, he's been in counselling. He's done, I think he maybe did one session of AA and went, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And so he was lucky enough to be he's been through a couple of different counsellors, and the last one that he was with didn't approach it as if the alcohol was the problem. He looked at what was triggering the alcohol.
Yeah.
So he was looking
the
at
alcohol is symptomatic.
Yeah,
the alcohol is symptomatic.
And he found that to be the best counsellor that he'd been with, or psychologist, quack person that he'd been with. And it's led him onto his own journey of actually joining up with some other groups. And one of the things he was telling me about is that he learned from one of these groups is that it's a bit like when you're in a physically abusive situation. There's a point where whatever impacting you've got happening in your life on a consistent basis changes your neural pathways.
Yeah.
And so those neural pathways become very strong.
Yeah.
And when those impacts are something like alcohol or drugs or abuse or whatever it is, when you start to move, it changes, literally.
It changes your brain. It literally changes your brain. Yep.
So when you start moving away from those things, your brain starts freaking out because suddenly that's not your normal space anymore.
No.
And that's where their drive is to come back to feed those neural pathways. So it's he's like, they basically said, look, mate, it's just going to get really fucking rough for a while. While your brain is rejigging itself and creating some new neural pathways and letting those old ones die off. But it's going to take a while. You know, you've been re-cementing those neural pathways for years and years and years. And you can't expect
it takes a while.
Them to change
it takes
overnight.
Like,
it won't.
No, it actually takes years. It takes years to reprogram the brain. So my brain is still doing it. Yeah. I've gone from there and I really reprogramming the brain. I think one of the other key aspects is people think, like my mum, I'll use my mother for example, she will say, but I can just have one glass of wine and you can't. And she's like, I don't have a problem because I can just have one glass of wine. And so a blanket statement that might be confronting for people is there actually is no normal consumption of alcohol. So when she says, but I can drink normally, alcohol is actually like a grade A. It's a poison. It's a carcinogenic poison and a potent neurotoxin. So there is no normal, there is nothing normal about consuming this poison. So when people say, but I can have one, and you can't, it's like, no, there's nothing normal about doing that. So it's really changing a mindset. So in a way, when people say congratulations to me for not drinking, I'm thinking congratulations, like for what?
Exactly.
For what? Exactly. So they're sort of saying, I'm like, what is it that you think I need to be congratulated for? Is it because I haven't consumed poison for 6 years and that's been really, really hard? It's like, well, because it's fucking crazy to do it in the first place. So yeah, it really changes your thinking. So there's when I first entered sort of sobriety, and sobriety is not a confining term for me. It's just a sort of a definition that's a word that's easily digestible, I suppose. But I read everything I could find by women who have written like memoirs on drinking, and there's quite a few. And in the 5 years that I have not been drinking, the alcohol, the not drinking alcohol literature that is out there is called Quit Lit, and it has its own genre now. So and that is in the last maybe 6 to 12 months. It now has its own genre. So if you were to go, not in every bookstore, but if you were to look online for Quit Lit, so it is like quit and then LIT, and I think it's because in the UK getting drunk is called getting lit, or so it's called Quit Lit anyway. And the variety of material out there in the genre of Quit Lit is mind-blowing, is actually mind-blowing. And you can, it has its own genre. like, you know, you can go into non-fiction or anything, and that is like a really, really big step. So it's sort of progressing the same way that smoking is, you know, where like
beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's also it's a little bit of a double entendre in that it's quit and it's literature. So it's literature for people who are quitting.
It's literature for people who are actually quitting. Yeah.
So I think it's a nice little double entendre in the word there. It's like, I like that.
Because it gets a little bit yucky. So you do get so it is called big alcohol. It actually, it is called big alcohol, and they do things like, we know that alcohol has a direct link to breast cancer. And then you'll have bottles of Jack Daniels with pink ribbons on them. So it's really,
it's very not cringy, cool. Isn't it?
It's not okay. It's not okay. It's the same. That sort of stuff. Not okay. So I do want to offer out my writings on Sacred Sober to anyone who is interested.
Beautiful.
It is free. I can't even give this away because like nobody really wants to know, but it is here. If anybody is actually struggling, or just not even struggling, or just questioning, so, like people are starting to question. They're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this every Friday night? And now I feel like shit. And now I've just lost all my money. Like, it's just, so even if you're just starting to question it, it's there. If anybody is interested, they can contact you or me.
For sure.
That grab yourself a pyramid at the same time.
Absolutely. So Amanda just wishes to say, but for making the choice to turn your life around, a lot of people aren't strong enough. So it's kind of like she's giving you props for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, it's not, because it's not. When she says it's not a lot of people aren't strong enough, because it's lonely. Yeah. And so I guess I've recognized that it's a lonely place. I've been here before in this lonely place. That's why I picked up in the first place, because it's lonely. It is a lonely place to be. So like what you're doing, how you're saying you want to build conscious community, is exactly what I'm trying to do. So I'm like, okay, instead of picking up this time because I'm lonely, I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to create the community. And you have to create the community. Find your tribe. And the tribe is out there. Just have to wait. It's a budding thing. You know, it's in its infancy. It's definitely in its infancy. So like sometimes I feel like this morning, you know, I do feel like I'm fighting a losing battle. Or just beating my head against a wall would probably be a little bit more
You're getting there though. You're getting there though, because every day that you choose something different, you're sending those energies out into the world to be picked up.
And I can't stop. Like, so I'm compelled to do this from like my soul. I call it Erin Brockoviching. Erin Brockovich. Awesome. She was, you know, like she just like hounded and did not give up. And so I'm kind of like going, I'm going to Erin Brockovich this. So I'm actually constantly at the moment in contact with the DASA, which is Drug and Alcohol Services of South Australia, to try and get this information on their tables, because they have AA come through. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So you need to actually promote some other shit, because you know, AA is promoting that people are alcoholic and they have a disease. It's sort of like some sort of moral failing. And it's like, hell no, that is not what's happening. That is really outdated. It's 1935. It's like, we've moved on. So I'm trying to get that the new age I suppose, information on that out there. So
Absolutely.
that's
It's
my
getting
main
there.
work. Yeah.
Thank God for the internet, because I tell you what, it's made life so much easier for getting this sort of info out there. And I mean,
Yeah, this
thank
wasn't
you to the
around when I was
no,
30. There wasn't
no.
the internet, and so it was just me alone and everybody else getting pissed. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was fucking lonely. So I just like
I hear you.
I'm
I
just
hear
gonna
you.
go and do it too, because I'm sick of it, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the sort of thing where just one of my final points, where my mum would say, "Oh, I can just have one drink, and everything's fine." And I say to my mum, "Yeah, but throw in, like, change the picture." I'm like, "Okay, cool. So you can just have one drink. Throw in some different scenarios. Like, now you've lost your job. Like, okay, so now you're having a couple more. So now you've lost your house or your marriage. Like, throw in some different scenarios, and then see if you're still just having one drink." You know what I mean? That's what you're talking about with your friend. Is that
Yeah.
there's all this underlying stuff going. All you've got to do is throw in a few different elements, and you're not just having one glass of wine, it's two, and now it's a bottle, and, like, you're going through a breakup, or something changed. And, like, I don't know that my mum necessarily sees it that way. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I
Yeah.
can just tell you, I can just have one glass and I'm fine." I'm like, yeah, but chuck in a few different,
Mm-hmm.
change
Oh,
the
for sure.
circumstances. Does that make
For sure.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally get
It's
it.
like
I've
everything's
seen it
cool
play out.
until everything's fine, and then, like, next minute your husband cheats on you, and you're going through a
Mm.
divorce, and
Mm-mm.
then things can start to get messy, and that just makes you human. It doesn't mean you've got a disease of alcoholism.
Yeah.
It just means, like, I really like the saying, it's not what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's what doesn't kill you just gives you trust issues and unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I think that's a little bit more realistic. It's like,
Yes.
what
Yes. So
if you're
true.
lucky, what doesn't kill you what makes you stronger. But in reality, what doesn't kill you generally just gives you trust issues and unhealthy coping mechanisms. And that's, like, totally true. I really love that one. I think that's great.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So my next question to you is, my love.
Yes.
And Brooke says hi. Brooke Hadlin says hi, Brooke, and he would like to
Hi.
say unaccountability.
Unaccountability.
So instead of being accountable, you're unaccountable. Not taking accountability for your actions. I think that's what he means. Just clarify on that one, Brooke, and we'll address that
one. Yeah, not quite sure. Will address it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he's, yeah.
I stopped drinking, in saying that I've had this many drinks since November 2020. 5 drinks.
Well, that's that's amazing.
And I'm just like going, and this year has been, I think, one of those 5.
Yeah.
And I mean single drinks, like a port this big.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I'm around people who are drinking, they're all going into freak out because I'm not drinking.
Yes.
And I'm like going, I'm good, man. I'm high on life. I don't require
you don't actually need it.
I'm really happy with my cup of tea, honestly.
Yes, it totally makes people uncomfortable, and that
really does.
It really does. They say alcohol is the only drug that you have to justify not using. I mean, like, you have to have It's really weird. So it's the only drug you have to justify not using, so that it's not alcohol and drugs. It is blanket. Alcohol is a drug. And yeah, if people find themselves addicted, it's because you got addicted to an addictive substance. It's as simple as that. You just became addicted to an addictive
Yeah.
substance.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm really, really glad that I didn't pick up any of those kinds of addictions. I didn't pick up smoking. I didn't pick up alcohol. I didn't pick up, drugs. I picked up food. That's my addiction.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not one that I can really stop having, sadly, but there you go.
No.
I think it's the worst one to be addicted to, because it's not like you can not have it in your life, which is a bit of an issue, but there you go.
Yeah.
And yes, exactly, Brooke. He's just said your tea selection doesn't seem obsessive at all.
Yeah.
I completely agree. But at least my tea collection is not going to harm anybody. I'm not going to be sitting down with my cup of tea sending abusive text messages off to people.
And I think, you're talking from a spirituality point of view. It really interferes with, that's why they call it spirits. It really interferes when you see somebody, because I became blackout drinking in the last 12 months of my drinking. I was blackout drinking. And that's really scary. That's where you drink, and then you're gone. And I don't know who takes my place, but I would lose sometimes hours, sometimes entire evenings or days. And that is really scary. I would come conscious or whatever, and I'd look around and be like, what the fuck? Who's been doing this? Like doing sword practice and cooking food, and it wasn't me because I wasn't present. And that's when it started getting really, really scary. Yeah, that's really scary shit, because you're talking about, I suppose, really opening yourself up to something steps in to take over, because it wasn't me. And so that's when it started getting really scary. And some people black out drink right from the start. Like, you'll find people say that they blacked out the first time they ever drank. And other people, like, I didn't. I would always be like there. I was like the last person standing. But then in the last year of my drinking, I was blackout drinking, and that was really scary. That's when it started getting really scary. Losing hours, like 7 hours of time, and and then people come back to you and they're like, this is what you were doing, this and that, and you're like, I have no memory of that. And it's and it's not funny, like people like when teenage, and they're like, do you remember falling over and doing this? It's like, no. And then the injuries start happening towards the end. Like, so I was what's called stage 4 end stage drinking, which is when it's like stage 4 cancer, was stage 4 of drinking. So I had fatty liver disease, and I was blacking out, and injuries were occurring. I had gout in my feet, so I was extremely ill, just horrendously sick. So yeah, there's nothing funny about that. So where alcohol can take you, and it does not say that on the bottle. There's no warning there, like there is on cigarettes now, that you could get lung cancer. And I've watched a few documentaries where they've tried to encourage big alcohol to label, like to be honest and say that this is actually an addictive substance, and these are the things that can occur, and it will aggravate breast cancer, or if you're vulnerable, don't drink it. Like how they say, don't, if you're pregnant, don't. They'll go that far, but they don't go any further than that.
Because certain peoples make a lot of money off of alcohol.
Yeah, that's right. It is so infused within our society that I don't know if it will ever be completely uninfused. It is so deeply entrenched. That's the thing you notice when you stop drinking, is you can't even turn a corner. Can't turn a corner, can't turn the TV on, it is just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't notice it until you stop.
Mm.
It's like if somebody said, you can no longer see the color blue, you're just going to kind of see blue everywhere. It's just everywhere.
Absolutely.
Absolutely everywhere.
So what sort of top tip would you give to somebody just sort of maybe beginning their spiritual journey, or
that question was fantastic. Let me find that one, because that actually is probably the one question that I think I should answer for you before you do wrap it up. Where is she?
And Brooke, yes, you're absolutely, while she's finding that, you're absolutely 100% correct. It is a distraction. 100%. It's a distraction to keep you sick. It's a distraction to keep your money away from being
and to keep you unconscious.
Yeah.
It keeps everyone yes, and that is sort of, it sounds a little bit conspiracy theory style, but it is. Alcohol is there to keep everybody unconscious. Yeah, and the more you buy into it, it is. Yeah, so she's spot on. But the top,
it's a he, but anyway.
Oh, it's a he. Soz, my bad. The top tip for someone beginning their spiritual journey. So there's something that I learned, and I cannot remember where I learned this, but this was early on, and it's called Pitfalls of the Path. And there are, I can't remember how many, like 5 significant pitfalls of the path on your spiritual journey. But I'll just give you the first one. So, because you've said like, what is the best tip for somebody starting out? So the first one that's really, really big, that stands out, is that when somebody stumbles or finds themselves on the spiritual path, they may have profound realizations about life, love, the universe, everything. Like it can be a really big epiphany of like what's actually going on, like this awakening, and it can be really, really, really easy to think that you have stumbled upon something that other people have not, and that you are now in possession of information that is like special to you and nobody else actually understands. And I think the Eckhart Tolle, who's obviously really famous for all of his writings, he actually put it really well. The way he puts it is, he says straight off the bat, I am not teaching you anything. I am only I don't know anything that you don't already know. I am just reminding you of what you already know. So I'm not in possession of any information here that you don't have. It's all inside you. I'm just here to remind you. So the pitfall of the path is that it can trigger someone, instead of to dissolve the ego, it can inflate the ego. And so you can, I don't know, you see it occasionally, I don't know, readers or spiritual people that really think that they're hot shit, and that they've stumbled upon something that others haven't, and they lose their grounding. And it's like, you haven't stumbled upon shit. Actually, everybody has it. So if you've been awakened, to try to stay leveled and grounded within that awakening. Does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely.
Because it can and I think because it did for me. So in my early 20s, these realizations that I had were big. They were profound. I thought I was fucking amazing. I thought I'd was the second coming of Christ. It was just so profound that I fell into the biggest pitfall there was, and that is thinking that I've found something. I didn't find shit. It had nothing to do with me. So that was, so, it's supposed to kind of deflate that sense of self, not inflate the sense of self.
Yeah.
And I think when you can see it when you walk around some of like the fairs that we've attended, you can see it when there's some that are just, for me personally, I'm like, not quite right. Like, it's not, just a little bit off. But, that's just my personal opinion, I suppose.
Yeah.
Didn't really ask for that.
Absolutely.
So, there's also the sort of the people that think that they've been chosen, that they've been chosen to be gifted with some sort of spiritual awakening. And I just think it's not like you haven't been chosen. You are not special. And that can be really hard for people. Everybody wants to be special. Like, you're not special. Every single person is exactly the same and has all of the same encoding and information in them, whether it's been awakened or not. If it hasn't been awakened in them, it doesn't mean that you're like better than them or chosen. It's just that you've awakened at this time and they haven't. But there's an equality there. So it's remaining humble. And
absolutely.
It's humility. So I turn to personally a lot of Buddhist philosophies in order to, or I have done. I find that the path of the deep path of spiritual knowledge and using some of the tools of Buddhism combined work really well together. Actually, they really do.
I agree. It's interesting when you start playing with all sorts of different modalities, how many cross over. Like a lot of the principles are crossed over between different modalities. And, even if parts of the modality are like not great, there's some that are, there's still some of those core things that are still great, and they still work well. And it's like they do increase consciousness and that connection to community and community. So I just like to address a couple of things that's happened in the chat there. So Brooke was mentioning that martyrdom that we can get into, that we can fall into, like
for sure.
And that can be a little bit narcissistic. A little bit narcissistic in that
absolutely. But I've always said, there's that thing where I've always struggled with it ever since I was a child, when they say, but Jesus died on the cross for you, that thing. And I'm like the martyr thing, I'm like, but I never asked him to. I was like, no, dude, I didn't, don't die for me, man. Martyrdom, definitely. Pitfall of the, it probably is in there as one of because there are actually, if you Google or look up the pitfalls of the spiritual path, they are there and they are pretty clear. And I think martyrdom actually might be one of them.
Beautiful.
And
I mean, for my journey, I certainly know that when I learned some specific, some specific healing tool techniques, and I was just like, oh my God, yes, everybody's got to have this, get it. I want to get my hands on you,
it's excitement. You get excited. Like I said, I thought I was like the fucking bee's knees. I thought I was like, oh my God, chosen. I can do all this shit. I'm amazing. And
7 years later, though, I'm like,
you get excited.
You know what? And I have a new catchphrase, or a new to me, is knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is peace.
Yep, I love that.
So, because the knowledge is power phrase, which is the one that we're all very familiar with, is basically ego. It's like knowledge inflates your ego. But for me, the more I've learned, the more that I have dove into my, Akashic records and all of that sort of stuff, the more peaceful I have become, and the less
not powerful. Yeah.
And I'm potent.
I like
still
that.
Fucking potent in what I do.
Yeah.
But I don't
like
feel
that.
like I need to big note myself. I don't feel like it's like, if you're attracted to me for work, then cool. Let's play. Let's fucking knock this shit out of the park.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to push myself on you either. I don't feel the need to do that. It's like,
no.
It's like, if you're attracted to me, then you are. Cool.
Yeah. You're not playing the part. Yeah, there's because I think when I was younger, I was because I did readings at fairs when I realized that I could read cards. And so in my 20s, I used to go around to the psychic fairs before I was doing pyramids, and I would do readings with cards. And yeah, that was challenging. In my early 20s, I didn't have too much ego around it, but yeah, I've dropped that now. Yeah. Like, no, I'm just I can still read, but I don't do it. I haven't done it for a decade or more. Yeah, that one seems kind of, I don't know. It's turned off. I'm turned off by it. I think at the moment.
Your talents are in other areas.
Yeah,
and the way that you're assisting and healing people is in a different way, and it's using the talents and the gift of your hands, like you creating the Orgonite Pyramids, which, just to remind people, this is what we're talking about.
I do. Yeah,
those really are.
These are my tools now.
Those are your
That's
tools.
my tool
the
now.
Cards are no longer
That's
your
my
tools.
tool now. Yeah.
No,
I don't do the cards anymore. I can, but I don't. I do the pyramids, and the pyramids are the tools, and they're they are potent. I like your word of potent. They are potent spiritual tools.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to answer Jacqueline's question, the topic for tonight has been Kate's journey with alcoholism and being a single mom and a lot of body health and issues, and how she ended up getting into a space where she was creating Orgonite Pyramids with her own flavor that are very potent within themselves, and it's so fucking cool. It's like I'm like, ooh. Like when I'm seeing them at the fairs, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, some people are drawn to them, some people aren't. Just I love it.
Yeah. So our final question for tonight, because our chat has been just so freaking tasty, was if you could sit next to any person, dead or alive, I'm going to say dead or alive, on a park bench for the afternoon, who would it be and why?
I love that question. And it's funny because I liked how you have, you've sort of got your meaty questions, and then you've got your, your tasty. And I love this question at the end. And I was talking to my mum, and so I said to my mum, so who would you sit with? And she goes, like, myself. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, you can sit on a park bench with anyone and you'd sit with yourself. Like, are you for real? And then in the end, I'm like, Mum, that's just shit. And she goes, all right, Ricky Gervais. I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. But my answer was my grandmother. So she's passed 13 years ago, I think, maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. I would sit with her because she was sort of my best friend in life, and I'd like to what did I actually wrote that I would like to know here it is. On a park bench every day. I wanted her to know, because in her 40s her marriage ended as well, and her husband cheated on her, and she remained single for over 50 years after that. She never loved again. So crippled her to the point where she learned how to live alone and be alone, and surrendered to being alone and chose that out of fear. It was a fear-based decision. She chose to never believe in love again. And for some reason, when it happened to me, the same thing happened to me. I made a choice. I actively made a choice that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do what she did, and be afraid to love again, because fuck, that's hard when you've been like burned bad. I mean, we've all had breakups, but when you've been utterly destroyed by a relationship, to really throw yourself into it again is one of the biggest, boldest, baddest things you can ever do. And so I wanted her to know that I did it again, because she obviously, my daughter was alive when she passed. She was 5. And now I have 2 more little boys, and I did it again. I gave it another shot, and I kind of wanted her to know that, and to know the feeling. I wrote, I'd love to know the feeling of vastness and envelopment of love that she is now part of, that she's just part. Yeah. And I envy that, that she's just in this envelopment of beautiful love and vastness. And I think that that would be really cool. And yeah, just wanting her to know that, that I didn't do what she did. There's nothing wrong with what she did, that she chose to stay alone, that she was afraid, that I fucking get it, but I wanted to know that I didn't do it. I didn't do that. Just so that she can be proud of me, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or it's like the little girl coming out, so be proud of me. And like, it may not work. You never know. That's what I've got. You don't know what life's going to throw at you. You cannot control it. It's not up to me. All I know is that I was brave enough to give it another go, but I don't know anything other than that. So
I look at that as being not so much as like looking for her praise. It's more of thank you for inspiring me to give it another shot.
Because
thank you for showing me what that looks like, so I know I don't have to choose that.
Because it was like, I really could have gone that way, and like I really could have gone that way. I was like, I don't know if I ever fucking do this again, because I rebuilt from the ground up, from rock bottom, rebuild again, choose to love again, choose to start a family again, build a home again. And and it's a big gamble, really, once you've experienced the pain of losing it all. To go to do it again, it almost seems stupid. So I can see why she did. She's like, why would you do that again? Why would you do that again? And it's like, well, because I believe in love, because I still believe in love. And,
me too.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place. It's like, I still believe in love, so it's a good place to end, in a way.
Alrighty, so what have you got coming up next? Where can people find your pyramids and all that
I am at the Millages Cafe Market, which is a beautiful cafe down in Port Adelaide, run by a couple, a girl called Brianna. So I will be there on Sunday from 9 till 3. So she's got like a cafe, and there's lots of stalls, and so that's really nice. I love that market. And then after, I'm not sure, Queen of Wands is heading out to Robe. And so that's a little too far for me. I know a lot of people that are actually traveling out there, but they're sort of spending a few nights out there, so that's kind of a bit too far. So after that, I'm not quite sure. I just know I've got Millages coming up this Sunday, And then probably the Victor Harbour Artisan Market. I've done that one a couple of times.
Beautiful.
So I'll be there. So after that, I'll be at the Victor Harbour Artisan Market. But I'll post a whole bunch of stuff up about being there. That market's awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
But it needs good weather. It's outside, so it needs good weather.
Yeah. So, of course, if you want to get in touch with Kate, you can always reach her through Kate's Orgonite Pyramids on Facebook there. It's been scrolling around the bottom all throughout the whole episode today. Her Etsy shop, you can grab things from her Etsy shop, which is Kate's Orgonite Pyramid on Etsy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome too.
And I can do custom for anybody. I've got one custom order at the moment.
Awesome.
Yeah, people have a lot of sometimes they have heirloom jewelry and bits and pieces just lying around. So this lady contacted me and she's like, I've got like some heirloom jewelry and some stuff. Do you think you could put it into a beautiful pyramid? So instead of sitting in a drawer, I could have it like to look at, you know, as my mum's stuff or whatever. So I get a lot of that. I actually get a lot of those.
Oh,
yeah. So I've done
gorgeous. What a beautiful way to honor those who have passed. Yeah.
You know, because you've got a lot of that costume jewelry that people sometimes have lying around, like you're not going to wear it. So I'm doing one for her at the moment with roses and stuff. So yeah, customs.
Wow.
If you've got any like custom ideas, yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
And so everybody, I'll be back on Friday for Find You Fridays, which is our intuitive reading show where you can come on and pop a little donation in and we can do you an extended reading online on the spot. It's super cool, super fun. The community over there is heaps cool fun as well. I love doing my Friday shows. It's at 8 p.m. And then next week, I'm looking forward to our chat because it's the second Tuesday of the month where we have two guys and a girl back again. So I will be having my beautiful friends Brooke and Matt back in for a juicy chat, and we're going to be talking about love, light, and bullshit.
I like that. That's good.
So, because we're all in the spiritual industry in different ways, and it's just such
it's quite
really
vast.
Interesting. Yes, and so it's one of those things that we've all sort of joked about, and I was like, let's make it a topic. So, so there we go.
I like it.
Come have a chat with us and see how you go. That's it. Obviously, this same time, 7 p.m. Adelaide time. The Find You Fridays is 8 p.m. So, yeah. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be you, my beautiful friends. Go out and do something absolutely tasty for yourself. Kate, thank you so much for coming and joining, sharing your beautiful story and being vulnerable with us and letting us know your journey, because I know that there are other people out there that will be absolutely inspired by you and what you're choosing to create beyond.
I hope so.
Beyond your life experiences.
Yeah, do something with it.
Because at the end of the day, each of our stories is absolutely valuable. And it is those bouncing platforms for other people to come along.
So I will do one final plug for Sacred Sober.
Please do. Yes.
Sacred Sober is my collection. It is 38 pieces of information that is absolutely sacred to those wanting to choose a different path for themselves. And it's a way, it's a roadmap. It is tools to help you out of the shit, and it's it would be really nice to see that go to people that need it actually. And I'm struggling to get the government facilities on board to get it in there because they don't want it out there. But yeah, we can get it out there.
Absolutely, we can. Alrighty, everybody. Have an amazing week. Until next time. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.